Hello my beautiful people, welcome to the next weekly general overview with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose and it resonates, hit that subscribe button. If you are already a continued subby, you know I love you for it. With that said, if you would like to book a personal reading with me, you can do so on the website addressed below. If you haven't got your seat on the winter solstice session, you can do so on the link in the description box below, and for $19.99 versus $39.99 you can get the amazing document that I created for you called the Retrograde Survival Kit. How to survive the retrograde of any planet. There's a strategy, there's a crystal, there's a quote, there's lots of other bits and bobs of information. If you want to get your copy, you can do so in the web on the click the link in the description box below. With that said, I would like to bless all of my decks of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance, and I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help us all on our paths to our highest vibrational good. So let's have a look, see what the week ahead has in store for us. What is the destiny card for the week ahead? What is in the overview? And this week we get the Tower card, right? So this week we're having shocking realizations. This week we are, the feeling that I get from this is, even though we're, I myself am personally winding down to hibernate, even though we're winding down, you know, right, we're in autumn. So even though we've got this kind of thing where everything's slowing down, the feeling that I get from this is almost like we're waking up from a sleep. And I feel like this winter, that's one of the reasons that I'm sort of already doing my prep work now. The feeling that I get from this is there's going to be this immense growth that happens between now and the end of the year. I feel like a lot of people are gearing up for that. And the thing with the Tower is it tends to bring you a shocking or startling realization of some sort. It tends to bring you an event, a feeling, an experience that wakes you up in some way, right? That it gives you a different perspective. And the thing about the Tower card, it is that sort of, you know, moment that shows up in difference to, say, the Fool card is kind of like, you know, it's like a destiny moment, where the Tower moment is a completion, it's an end. It pulls a structure that you have in your life that you thought was solid, it pulls it apart. So this week we in some way, shape or form, and I mean very, very interesting. You know me, I very rarely talk about politics because I feel like it's just too divisive a subject. I do not think it is a coincidence that the Tower card has come up and Boris Johnson in the UK has just been told that his actions of Parliament were unlawful. I see this whole thing about the President Trump in the US. In some way, shape or form, the foundations of the structures that we look up to, live in, live with, all the rest of it, are starting to rumble. And, you know, the thing is, what I'm actually hearing at the moment is, you know, when you hear wood has taken too much weight, it splits and it starts to crack. That's the feeling that I get from this. And this isn't just in the wider world stage, right? This is in our personal lives as well. Something that we have given too much credence to, too much energy to, is cracking now, right? And whatever it is that comes tumbling down, whatever it is that that realization is that comes, and it's going to feel like a, you know, like a bit of a smack in the face. That is a good thing, right? When you have these realizations, it's a good thing, because once you see through something that is actually an illusion, you can move past it, right? So, okay, these are beckoning to me. Let's have a look at the direction card. What is there to give this some context and meaning? What may it relate to? And this week we get the Eight of Cups, right? So this is about your emotions. It's about the emotional imbalances that we sometimes face. But the Eight of Cups is also about where you take back your emotional power. Whatever this shocking event is this week, you give it no power. It's almost like you're saying, you know what? Yes, I see it. Yes, it's a shift. Yes, it's a change that needs to happen. I kind of wish that it wasn't or that it wouldn't. But actually, with the Eight of Cups, I'd already emotionally prepared for this. I was already, and it's kind of like, for some of you this might be an argument that shapes up. For some of you this might be a difficult conversation that happens, and the feeling that I get from it is almost like you've already heard right? Some part of you felt that things were going this way. And probably weeks ago, you started to emotionally lay the foundations and prepare for whatever it was that you already felt might be coming to a close. Well, this week, when you see that happen, you're ready for it. You're prepared for it. The Eight of Cups basically says that it's kind of like, it's not that it doesn't phase you. It's more a case of, because you've already done the groundwork, because you've already done the separation work, let's call it, earlier in your own timeline. When you get to this event this week, when it takes place, you'll almost be able to look at it like an out-of-body experience, to say to yourself, well, yeah, you know what, I feel that, and yeah, it is what it is, but actually it doesn't affect me in that way. It doesn't have any power to ruin anything for me, because I'd already anticipated it. Having a little bit of trouble there. Interesting as well, because the word of the week, which I will get to in a minute. So what is the insight card? What is coming through in, what's the energy that's making its way in? What's the energy that is coming through or hiding behind the scenes that we need to know about? And this week we get the Page of Swords, right? So interesting again, because the Page of Swords, aside from interviews, job interviews and all of that sort of stuff, the Page of Swords can sometimes be where you have that argument, where you have those harsh words, where one person's opinion is kind of skewed. It's almost like they've missed the point, or they didn't quite get what the subject matter was. So they go off on one and you're kind of stood there like, yeah, okay. Are you done? Are you finished? Can we now talk about this like adults? There's a bit of a page. The Page of Swords can sometimes, in the absolute extreme, represent stalkers. On the other end of it, it can represent people that talk shit. It can be all of those things, aside from everything else that it represents. So really, really interesting stuff. I mean, especially as an insight card, it's basically saying to you, yes, this event is going to happen. Yes, there's probably going to be, like I said, some sort of argument, some sort of difficult conversation, something that you're going to have to traverse that isn't necessarily easy. The fact that you've got that Eight of Cups as your direction means that you'd already done the prep work. So when it comes up, you're already kind of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps ahead, because you've already taken maybe not necessarily the persons, that's probably a bad way to put it, but you've taken the event or the possible energy grab that could take place. It's like you've taken your power and secured it and said, look, when this happens, I refuse to be emotionally moved by it. Right? And that's not to say that you're not an emotional being. It's just saying that you're not allowing yourself to be emotionally compromised when said event takes place. On the wider world stage, I think we'll definitely see some form of withdrawal. I'm not entirely sure that anybody goes to prison, unfortunately. So if you were hoping for that, it's probably not going to happen. What I can tell you, though, with wider world events is the will of the people will be heard in some way, shape or form this week. When you see that, the people across the globe are asking for more to be done about the things that we're facing, things like the climate, things like the Amazon, all of that stuff, you may very well see that some of the powers that be marshal the resources of the world to start defending those resources, right? Which is actually a beautiful thing. I mean, interestingly enough, this little Page of Swords here as well, you've probably all seen it, the little girl that stood up and basically told the world, like, what the are you doing? There you go. We could actually see something come into enforcement off the back of that. You could see a lot of governing bodies and stuff start to marshal that. That's the feeling that I get from this. And some of it will probably be surprising. I kind of feel like there might be some bans coming. Like we might hear that this has been banned or that's been banned, and it happens quickly. It's kind of like we're all like, whoa, okay, where did that come from? So the message of the week was depend, right? And it's not about, so whatever happens, even in all of these situations that can be tough, that can be challenging, that could be emotionally, well, not going to be emotionally draining because you've already done the groundwork, right? Depend, right? When we talk about depend, it's a bit of a dirty word nowadays because people are like, wow, I'm independent, and so it's brilliant to be independent. It absolutely is important to be independent. However, when you have people, social circles, things that you can depend on, that is a mark of trust. When you have a mark of trust, when you have trust invested in something, you have a much stronger foundation. Whatever it is that's being rocked this week, was not able to depend, it was not able to have you depend on it. It's kind of like one of those things, like, you know, if you lean on something and it snaps, it probably wasn't very strong to begin with. So whatever it is that's closing or ending this week, you'd already preempted it and said, you know what, I can't depend on that. I can't depend on you. I can't depend on any of this. So you know what, I'm going to take that dependence and I'm going to put it somewhere that actually supports the weight of what I can put on it. And vice versa as well. You know, this could be us. This could, you know, so a friend, a partner, a family member, a colleague could say to you this week, you know, I'm going to need to depend on you in the days ahead. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You know, it gets a bad rep because I think a lot of the things that we've seen in history, but it's not a bad thing to find something or someone that you can depend on. It's a mark of trust. And when you, excuse me, a mark of trust. And when you have that mark of trust, it is a really powerful collaboration, relationship, bond that you have, right? So I hope that's helped. I hope it highlights and illuminates something for you. I wish you all an abundance of all of that good stuff. Have a fantastic week. Let me know in the comments how it shapes up. If you see anything in the wider world stage that correlates to this, let me know in the events or type me a message on Facebook. Lots of people do, and I love the validations because it kind of keeps me feeling like, right, yeah, you know what, Raph, this is what you're meant to be doing. All right, take care. I love you loads, and I'll see you soon.